Hello, my name's Lisa, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what I did when I had two type 1 children, as far as like nighttime. When the one was diagnosed, of course, I was watching his blood sugar like a hawk for months, months and months. Then my daughter was diagnosed, and I don't think I slept after they were diagnosed. I mean, as a type 1, you already don't sleep well at all because anytime your blood sugar is either high, low, it wakes you up, you feel horrible. If it's high, you're going to the bathroom constantly. If it's low, you got to treat it. It takes a while to come up sometimes and then get back to sleep. So you already don't sleep. But with two type 1 children on top of that, I still am not sure how I made it through those years. So it's been 8 years now since my son was diagnosed and 6 since my daughter was diagnosed. I started having to wake up when Riley was diagnosed. I think I checked his blood sugar about every 2 to 3 hours in the middle of the night. Every night, I would set my alarm, wake up, go check him, then add my daughter to the mix. It was the same thing. And, we do have Cooper, the service dog, which we got a year after my son was diagnosed. But with service dogs, he's 100% spot on. He always alerts when he's awake, and whatnot. But when Cooper's asleep at night, he doesn't necessarily wake up to alert if he smells, high or low blood sugar. He's just out. He's sound asleep. And most service dogs actually don't alert if they're sound asleep at night. They don't wake up and alert. But there is a percentage that does. It's just Cooper's not one of those. Now, if he wakes up in the middle of the night anyway, he may smell it, and then yes, he will alert. But he won't wake up just because we're having a high or low if he is out, in the middle of the night. So I did have to check on them just constantly. With type 1 diabetes, there's what's called dead in bed syndrome. It's pretty much everyone's nightmare, every parent's nightmare. It gives you anxiety when you have children with type 1 as far as feeling like you need to make sure their blood sugar is okay in the middle of the night. And yes, they were both on Dexcom, which is a continuous glucose monitoring system. However, Dexcom will only let you follow one person from your phone. So in other words, I can follow myself with an app, but as far as the follow app, which is different than my own app for myself, you can only follow one. I have asked them for years if they would fix this. I know I'm not the only person with two type 1 children, and I've even heard of very rare people out there with 3 children with type 1. But, I do know it is more rare to have 2 with type 1. So, never added it. Unfortunately, Dexcom never added that capability. So, I only could pick one child to follow, which was very difficult. And even when I went to work, I was a registered nurse at the time, I would follow, I think what I did was I followed Riley for those first 2 years at diagnosis, and then by the time Grace was diagnosed, he was doing pretty well during the day, mostly. And my husband and I worked opposite shifts. I worked days, he worked nights as both registered nurses. So somebody was always home with the kids. It's just a matter of, he would be sleeping during the day and I would be sleeping at night and having to wake up and whatnot and check on them. So, and that was, I feel very lucky and blessed that we were able to do that for so many years. But as soon as Grace was diagnosed, then I thought, okay, I need to follow her. She's brand new. She's going to have just crazy fluctuations, as she's figuring it out. She's got some honeymoon periods, still spitting out a little insulin, messing with everything else. And, a lot of people go through that the first 6 months or so. So I did follow her for those 2 years. But nighttime was very difficult. And I feel for any parent of a type 1 because you just don't sleep. I think only in the last maybe 2 years, since Riley turned about 18 and Grace turned 16, they've been doing so much better that I don't feel like I have to get up and check on them several times a night. But in the morning, you know, if I don't see them, I might pop in and just kind of make sure, you know, everything's okay, they look okay. Cooper actually sleeps with me every night on my bed with our other dog and the cats and whatnot. So, you know, Cooper will kind of go around checking on everyone in the morning. It's funny, but their doors are closed in the morning, so he can't get in there if the door is closed to check on them. Now, the way we battled that, funny enough, when they were both diagnosed, when we lived in Nevada, we had a dog door on each of their rooms, and that dog door had to stay open. They could leave the door shut, I don't care, but the dog door with the flap needed to be accessible to Cooper at all times, especially those early years after diagnosis. And he would kind of wander and check on everyone and, you know, decide who he wanted to go hang out with. So, and that worked for several years up until they were older. And then, you know, it's like, okay, I need to let go of the reins more and just kind of let them learn how to do this as adults, which now technically they're both adults as of next Saturday when Grace turns 18. So, and that's difficult too. You know, we still, as a type 1 parent, it's very difficult to let go of that constant thought of what's your blood sugar, how are you feeling, how much insulin do you have on board. You know, I've got them in the habit before they drive, check your blood sugar before you drive. Very, very important. I had a friend many years ago that was type 1 diabetic and had a low, crashed and died, you know, while driving. So for me, that was always in the back of my head and brought on even more anxiety about them driving. You know, you feel low, you pull over, you check, you treat it, and you wait. And that's difficult too, because sometimes you might have to be somewhere and your blood sugar's not behaving in the middle of your drive. It doesn't just come up. You know, it takes 15, 30 minutes to come up, and sometimes, depending on how low you went and how bad it was, you don't feel good for hours sometimes afterwards. But, you know, to get that blood sugar up, sometimes it takes a little bit of work, and it can be trying when you're driving. So that's it. Just, you know, any parents out there of type 1s, I feel for you. I remember that. I still don't sleep because I'm type 1, so I still wake up usually several times a night, you know, just depending on how my blood sugar is and how I'm feeling and whatnot. But anyhow, it's difficult, but you get through it, you know. It's almost like having a newborn again. That's how I remember thinking of it, as far as I already didn't have good sleep because I was type 1, but it was almost like having a newborn again, and then having twin newborns because you're up continuously to check and make sure that everything's okay. So that's it. Good luck with those nights.